All right, hey people, welcome back to the Chaos Head Noah stream. We are finally starting Remy's route. We are finally doing it. We are finally doing it. Best girl route. Oh shit! Start this, man. As usual, we will start from the very beginning, and the option to start her route naturally is in chapter 1. So we're gonna start. All right, here we go. Tonome, tare no me. Yes. Come on, let's skip. Skip. Yes. Yes. All right, here we go. Let's start. All right. Has a ribbon in her hair. Yes. Is wearing glasses? No. Is wearing over knee socks. Over the knee socks. Yes. Is wearing a long skirt? No. Is making some sort of salute at me? Yes. Two hours prior. I love this. We already start at chapter 1 for something like this. The light of the sunset bathed a hospital room in a vibrant orange. All was silent, as if time itself had stopped. Only a single person was present, completely still as if asleep. Sat a boy in a wheelchair. It was around the time of day where one would find nurses rushing around the hospital, serving patients their dinner, and yet no signs of activity made their way to the room. A moment later, the silence was broken by a sound of the door opening. A lone girl entered the room. The boy in the wheelchair lifted his head to acknowledge her, but did not speak. For a moment, the girl hesitated at the entrance. Looking around the room, she could sense a faint aura of loneliness emanating from it. The drab-looking room was minimal in size and reeked of disinfectant. This was where the two of them spent their days, an isolated location eternally unknown to the rest of humanity. Not a single soul, be they a doctor, nurse, friend, or relative, ever came to visit. The boy and girl rarely exchanged words at one another. The boy had been hospitalized for a whole year had been comatose. Only just a month ago had he awoken. The girl had been essentially using his room as a place to stay. However, as much as she did trust him, their relationship had nothing to do with any sort of romance or sexual attraction. Her only goal was to repay her debt to the boy. Nothing more, nothing less. The boy was intentionally cold and distant, having even told her not to return once before. But all the same, she remained. That was, in part, because she had nowhere else to go. During his coma, she had been his lone caretaker. The couch in the room had become her bed, and even now, after he had woken up, she still used it as such.
ご飯 買ってきたよ。
She spoke with warmth and sincerity as she held out a bag of food she had bought from the convenience store. Her words scared away the static atmosphere and breathed new life into the dead world that surrounded them. The girl surrendered herself to such an illusion, but did not mention this to the boy as she laid several kinds of bread atop the empty bed.
いつも思うんだけどさ、こんな食事で体は大丈夫？
もともと先は長くないから。買ってこさせて、ごめん。
いいのいいの。私の分のついでだから、気にしないで。
She forced herself to smile at the boy. Having taken an egg sandwich for herself, she moved toward the window. Upon opening the window, the crisp autumn breeze permeated the quiet hospital room. Comfortably greeted by the wind, the girl narrowed her eyes and perched nimbly on the windowsill. The room was located considerably high up, imaginably falling would mean certain death. This, however, hardly mattered to the girl, who simply took a hearty bite out of her sandwich. The boy in the wheelchair paid her no heed. He did not even attempt to reach for the bread laid out on the bed.
ねえ、もう一度聞くけど、本当に彼を覚醒させるつもり？
うん。昨日、チャットをしてみてはっきりした。のぞみはすでに彼に目をつけている。ノア2も完成間近だし、急がないと。
どうしても、やるの？
そうだよ。
でも、それじゃ、のぞみと変わらない。彼に恐怖を与えて、追い詰めて。
彼しかいないんだ。
彼が覚醒すれば、あなたは死ぬのに。
最初から覚悟の上だよ。彼に全ての責任を押し付けようとしている僕には、相応の罰だと思う。
The girl kept her gaze focused on the setting sun, not daring to look over her shoulder at the boy. Her countenance laid her emotions bare. She looked as if she might burst into tears at any moment.
彼を消すっていう選択肢は、ないかな。
そうなったら、僕はまた1年以上昏睡する覚悟で、新しい僕を生み出さないとね。その頃には、ノア2は完成して、世界には絶望が溢れているだろうけど。
Despite his gentle tone, his words were laced with a touch of cynicism. Upon hearing them, the girl couldn't help but let out a sigh.
私は、あなたのやり方には、反対だな。
ノア2を完成させるわけにはいかない。
そうだけど、彼の立場を考えたら、悲しすぎるよ。それに、あなたが自殺しようとしているのを、むざむざ指をくわえて見ているわけにもいかないし。
自殺じゃないよ。
私が、なんとかする。
The boy finally moved a little, taken aback by the girl's abrupt yet resolute words.
なんとかって？
Finishing off the last of her sandwich, she sat down from the windowsill, then turned to face him. Then, for some inexplicable reason, she snapped into a pose resembling that of a salute.
私が、望みから、彼を守る。そうすれば、あなたは死なないから。
I see. For Remy, doing the salute pose is just her thing. She just likes to do that for no reason, man. All right, okay.
それじゃあ、彼が生まれた意味がなくなるし、何の解決にもならない。ノア2が。
ノア2も、私がなんとかするって。
Wait.
君には無理だよ。
もう、決めたの。私は、あなたを守るために、あなたと対立します。
She gave him a frail yet tender smile. At the sight of this, the boy lost any and all words he had.
あなたの予言によると、今日、新しい事件が起きるんだよね。
予言じゃない。事実だよ。彼らの妄想を見たからね。
だったら、彼をその事件に近づけさせないようにしなくちゃ。私、ちょっと行ってくるね。
She approached the door.
君が邪魔をしても、僕は予定通り彼を目覚めさせるよ。
As she opened the door, hearing the voice directed at her back, she paused for one final time. No signs of light came from the hallway. Not a single human being was in sight, and not a single sound reached the room.
ねえ。私たちって、何なんだろう。誰にも存在を知られずに、ここに、もう1年以上いる。ここにいると、自分っていう存在は、幻なんじゃないかって思えてきちゃうの。ジメジメ気分になるのは、やっぱり病院だからかな。
リミ、君は関わるべきじゃない。
Despite the boy's pleading, the girl did not look back.
パン、ちゃんと食べるんだよ。
I can totally understand why the hell Remy was thinking like that. I mean, after all, she thinks herself as an existence made out of a delusion. After all, well, technically, she is at least her psyche, her current psyche is, she believes, is to be created out of a delusion. So, she naturally has an issue with, like, existing. After murmuring those last words, the girl left the hospital room. Okay. Okay, here we go. She, too, had heard that sound. Before, there had been a strange whirling sound, like something tearing its way through the air. Yeah, we can hear the porter machine. Soon after she heard it, she discovered its origin. A rucksack worn by a nearby suspicious-looking person. When she attempted to pursue them, however, they escaped. That was when she heard another sound echoing in the distance. The shrill sound of stakes being nailed into a wall. And though faint, the whirling sound from before could still be heard as well. The two sounds resonated in grating harmony, creating the illusion that her ears may start bleeding at any moment. So there's at least two people with rucksacks in the area.
手遅れ。だった。
Lightly biting her lip, she sprinted toward the source of the sound. And there, her eyes landed upon... No, oh, okay. The other sound she was talking about is like the hammering of the nail. A stake. A corpse. Affixed to a wall by several cross-shaped stakes. Startled, she surveyed her surroundings. Though she loathed to admit it, the status of the victim did not matter to her in the slightest. It granted the opportunity, she would naturally have preferred to save him, but it was much too late. And now there were more important matters at hand. She couldn't let Nishijo Takumi see this place. She couldn't let him be consumed by fear. Where could he be? With that on her mind, she returned her gaze to the corpse. She was at a loss for words. She had only looked away for a second, and yet in that short time, countless stakes have gruesomely mutilated the corpse. Just a moment ago, there had only been a few stakes on the wall, just enough to suspend the corpse in midair. There haven't even been any external injuries, let alone blood. But now, A grisly spectacle lay before her eyes. The sight of it left her reeling in horror, frantically fighting to endure her nausea. Her vision distorted as uncertainty seized her heart.
妄想が現実を侵食してる。
In that moment, the girl came to notice that the changes did not end there. Her clothes were different. She was wearing a uniform unfamiliar to her, from a school she did not recognize. Oh, that would explain why she was wearing a Sune uniform. This is part of his delusion. Because he was, Takumi was making a delusion of a girl who reached out to him. In addition, her body was stained with crimson, and in her hand was a stake.
嘘。これって。妄想がシンクロを。
Someone's delusion had edited the scene around her. The gruesome corpse, her clothes, the rich scarlet blood. Was any of it real?
違う。
It couldn't possibly be real. There was no stench of blood. She couldn't feel the icy chill of the metal stake in her hand. She put her hand on her bloody cheek, and it came away dry. She carefully reached for one of the stakes planted on the body, but when she tried to grab it, her hand grasped nothing but air. Everything was a delusion, a far, far too vivid delusion. But at any moment, the delusion could become reality. It had already taken form. Once rebooted, it would merge with reality. What was she to do? The girl was overtaken by doubt. A delusional space like this, oozing negativity, was well beyond anything she was used to dealing with. Such a powerful deluder may have already taken Nishido Takumi's life. She might accidentally find Takumi pinned to the wall in this man's place. At this point, it would not even surprise her. Driven by anxiety, she let out a soft cry, and right at that moment,
あの時の将軍のリンク写真
the terrified scream of a boy resounded from behind her. Okay, so that's something we already know. Oh, nice. There's a lot of seeds. I love this. I love this. Okay, this really feels like a different route. The vast majority of nurses at Yoyogi's General Hospital were out making their rounds. Only one could still be found sitting alone at the nurse's station. She stared at the laptop with a deadpan expression on her face. Despite not being on break, she was in the middle of a phone call. It did not seem to matter to her the slightest that she was violating her work's policy on cell phone usage. Reflected in her blank eyes was a certain chat log, shining brightly on the computer screen before her.
ええ、そう。現れたのよ。西条匠が。
間違いないっすか？
多分。
Speaking on the other end of the call was a man. It was clear from how they spoke to one another that the conversation had nothing to do with work.
名前はハンドルネームを使っているけれど、あの公式のことを知っていたもの。ログをコピーして送るわ。
With a mechanical flick of her wrist, the nurse moved the mouse with the intention of copying the log. However, she suddenly stopped and her brow furrowed.
どうしたんす？
The nurse ignored the man's question, narrowing her eyes as she brought her face closer to the screen. The screen still displayed the chat logs. However, something seemed different from a few seconds prior. Something had changed. An impossibility. Considering they were logs, not real-time conversations. And yet, even though everything had felt perfectly normal a moment ago, something felt incredibly out of place now.
ログの書き込み時間が変わってる。
どういうことだ？
The man understood how absurd her claim was, and the voice on the other end of the call became much lower.
ついさっきまでは不自然なところなんてなかったのに、これ一体どうなって。
落ち着け。相手は化け物級のギガロマニアックスだ。
細工されたのかしら。
自分の実在を知られたくないためだろう。
炊き込み時間が変化したことで自作自演のように見えてくるわ。
そう見えるな。それが狙いってことだ。現実を妄想にした。気をつけろシロ。見られているぞ。奴に。
Suddenly, a sense of uneasiness crept up at the back of Shino's neck. Covering her nape with her hand, she turned to face the source of the gaze. But there was no one there. There was nobody there. Not a single soul could be found within the nurse's station. So Shogun was already observing Hazuki at this point.
信仰の救いあれ。
Shino murmured those words of prayer to herself, hoping they would sweep the fear away. That's an interesting use scene. I like that. Jesus, chapter 1 alone, before this even delusion, for that delusion, there was already like that kind of scene. So there really is a lot of things. I really think there's a lot of new scenes. I'm really happy for that. Baby, 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 baby.
滝、外出嫌いなのに。
It's taking a while. Baby, 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 baby.
Nen,
Doot, 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 doot. Yo, it's Quasimodo. Oh. Oh, okay. I thought it was like Quasimodo. Oh, there you go. Sakihata Rimi remained expressionless as she moved forward. She was walking down one of Sume Academy's many hallways. This one lined with classrooms for second-year students. She was not accustomed to wearing a uniform, as this was her first time setting foot in this place. She paid no mind to all the other students in her vicinity. However, her apparent composure was a mere facade, one intended to desperately conceal a boiling point of unease within her. Her somewhat awkward march through the halls betrayed this, but as she proceeded toward her destination, she kept her head held high at all times. Soon enough, she reached room 2C.
ここか。
She already knew the answer. It was Nishijo Takumi's class. She placed her hand on the closed room. Only then did she realize that her fingers were trembling. On a normal day, I would have wanted to come here. Such a desire crossed her mind for a moment, but she stopped her delusions from progressing any further. After taking a small breath, she vigorously slid the door open.
みんな、おはよう。
Her stoic expression faded, as if it never existed to begin with. The classroom before her was remarkably cheerful, overflowing with energy. She lifted her right hand to her forehead, snapping into the pose of salute. Rimi's greeting resounded throughout the classroom, and the classroom fell silent as death itself. Class had not started yet, so the room was about half full, but everyone that was there was looking her way, visibly puzzled. And for good reason. Nobody in this class, nobody in this school knew who she was. And for that very reason, Rimi had to first make sure to draw everyone's attention. She drew her di sordo, and yet not a soul reacted. The sword, with blades affixed like inflexible feathers, was still a delusion. It was visible to no one. And for her purposes, however, this was enough. Go forth, my delusion. She fired her thoughts at the eyes at those glazing at her. Then, as if it had somehow planned beforehand, everyone blinked in unison. And then, all at once, the room's frozen atmosphere thawed. Rimi looked around the room once more, and then a smile formed on her face.
おはよ
おはよう、咲畑。
おーっす。
う。リーミー、朝っぱらから声大きすぎ。
もっと静かに入ってこいよな。
One after another, each student spoke to her like they've always known her. Even though until mere seconds ago, they had never seen her before. But it was different now. Rimi had planted delusions onto them. Delusions that soon attained mutual recognition. Recognition that Sakihata Rimi is a student at Sume Academy and is a member of Class 2C. Wait a second. How was she able to plant the delusion in Takumi's mind that he knows her name without bringing out her D sword? Anyway, 2 days prior, she had tested the trick on Nishino Taku, but it had proven to be not very effective. As a result, she had been worrying over how exactly it would unfold when she tried it here. But it seemed her anxiety had been unfounded. After seeing the smiles of her chattering classmates, she heaved a sigh of relief. Well, you know, I think it's less effective when a gigalomaniac. She recalled her Disordo, then approached the empty seat from a vacant row in the back of the room. This desk was another delusion she had created. She placed her bag down, but rather than sitting, she turned to face the boy approaching her.
よ、リーミ。
よ、ミスミ大輔。ミスミ大輔。ミスミ大輔。
What? Rimi spoke his name 3 times to ensure her certainty.
なんで3回言った？しかもフルネーム。
そういう気分だったからだよ。大地。
Misumi was Taku's friend. In addition to being quite handsome, he clearly put care into the way he dressed. So, it wasn't Rimi responsible for Misumi being friends with Takumi. Then who did? Was it Shogun? Or was he really just being friends? Because there was I think it's in the comment route that he kind of doubted that he has an idea when they started becoming friends. So I think it was another delusion implanted thing, and I don't think Rimi was the one responsible for it. Anyway, Rimi did not know how his friendship with Taku had come to be. Perhaps Takumi was responsible, fabricating this friendship through delusions. Oh yeah, okay. It's totally possible that Takumi did it, or perhaps Misumi and Taku had truly had formed a genuine friendship on their own, with no outward interference. Based on what we know, this is not true, so it's most likely the former. The cause mattered not. All that mattered was that he and Taku were friends. Rimi's delusion had already implanted fresh memories within him.
タクは？
まだ来てねえな。っていうか、今日はあいつ来る日か？
多分ね。
さすが、タクの保護者だな。あいつのスケジュールをちゃんと把握してるなんてよ。
Rimi wore a strange smile. It was a smile formed from feelings of guilt. Everyone's memories had been altered with delusions. That would remain Rimi's secret, with nobody else suspecting a thing. Those around her would act friendly with her. However, nothing could change the fact that these relationships had been crafted from falsehoods. She had thought that she had become completely accustomed to loneliness by now. But by placing herself in this classroom, she was subjecting herself to desolation stronger than ever before. I actually feel sad for her, man. And it wasn't like she is an executor of the church, so you know she wasn't like an executor of church, that would think about this as if it was a job. She is, after all, just an ordinary girl with a lot of knowledge about things. This is the second melt, right? Oh no, it's just a voicemail. Yo, Bestimoto. Oh, this is the God I wish that were me moment.
お前だな。
Oh man, PTSD. It's taking a while. Oh, here we go. Standing in the center of a dimly lit room, Sakihata Rimi hung her head, remaining deadly still. The room's owner, Nishijo Taku, was not currently present. He had not locked the door before he left, so Rimi had easily been able to enter. She checked the time on her cell phone. It was nearly 10 p.m. Is Taku still at Scramble Crossing? If she had been able, she would have helped him straight away. She had already attended to once before, but the closer she had gotten to the Scramble Crossing, the denser the crowd had become, and eventually she had been rendered unable to move. In the end, the Esper Boys show had concluded before she had reached O Front. It was then that she heard Taku's voice. He pleaded with her to return Nanami's hand. It was not often that Taku would ask Rimi for a favor. Nozomi had kidnapped Nanami, and they were currently subjecting her to all manner of torture. Takumi had been able to locate her using his mind reading abilities. As she and Nanami had been acquainted in the past, hearing this news broke Rimi's heart. Oh, so okay, at least now I remember. So it was actually Rimi who was she actually did try to go there in O Front. A cardboard box sat on the sofa. Contained within it was a cell phone, a petite bangle, and Nanami's severed hand. The sight left Remy at a loss for words. Concern, anguish, and sorrow overwhelmed her. All at once, memories of her own past hardships flashed through her mind. Forcefully biting her lip, Remy stared at the hand for a few moments. And then, with a deep breath, she gently closed the lid of the box, sealed it with the duct tape, and left the room with the package in tow. Okay, so she's the one who took the hand. Remy took out her cell phone and connected to the first television broadcasting service. The events at Scramble Crossing had been on news earlier, so she tuned into it, hoping to confirm something. But when the channel came on, it was in the midst of a commercial break, which must have meant that they were not broadcasting live anymore. In other words, Taku must not have been at Scramble Crossing anymore. Knowing this, Remy reluctantly returned to the hospital room she shared with Takumi. The lights were off. The room was pitch black, as when she had left it. The bed was empty, as Takumi was sitting in his wheelchair instead, something that Remy had become accustomed to.
ナナミの腕は
持ってきた。
Remy opened the box and presented it to Takumi.
ありがとう。
直せるかな？直せるよね。
わからない。でもこの病院なら冷凍保存しておける設備がある。
Of course, freezing it would be better than nothing, but there was no guarantee that it could ever be returned to her. That was what his eyes conveyed to her.
大丈夫。きっと、治るよ。
Remy boldly declared this with a positive flair.
きっと治るって。信じる。もっとも、その前に、ななみちゃんを助け出さなきゃいけないけど。
ナナミは殺されることはないと思う。焦って動くことはないよ。
冷静なんだね。ごめん。今言った言葉は忘れて。それより、タクは今どこにいるかわかる？
この病院に搬送されてきたよ。精神科の病室で眠ってる。
そうなの？
Rumi's eyes widened, and she immediately burst out of the room. Visiting hours had long since ended, forcing Rumi to conceal the sound of her footsteps as she traversed the dim hallways. She knew that both Nozomi and the Cosmic Church of Divine Light were among the hospital staff, and she could not afford to attract any unwanted attention. Following along an arduous trek, she arrived at the room that Takumi had informed her of. Upon inspecting her surroundings to ensure she would not be seen, she slowly opened the door. The room was pure white, the entirety providing not even the slightest hint of warmth. Rumi silently approached the bed in the center of the room. Taku lay there, sleeping deeply, his forehead beaded with sweat. His eyebrows were furrowed, and a moan would occasionally escape his lips. He was having a nightmare. Rumi reached out toward Taku's cheek and gently caressed it.
ごめんね。あなたを守ってあげられなくて。
Unable to withhold her emotions any longer, she whispered that into his ear. Ugh. Sorry, I'm watching people wear the Apple VR thing.
You...
I think we're getting close to something. All right, it's time. Aoi-san's eyes shot wide open at the sight of my disordo. Her blow had been fairly quick, but stopping it had been hardly any trouble. Our disorders resonated with one another, releasing a shrill cry that enveloped the two of us. I could feel Aoi-san's negative emotions, her fury, her hatred coming forth through her disordo.
さっき話はもうギガロマニアックスだったのら
Was also a gigalomaniac. Behind me, Taku sank to the floor in shock. In that state, it would be impossible to get him to escape at this point, so I had no choice but to deal with Aoi-san somehow.
その男が何をしたか知っているのか IR2 という公式を
知ってるよ
I cut Aoi-san short. I didn't want Taku to even hear its name.
それなら
タクを覚醒させればもっと大変なことになる
その前に殺す
あなたには無理だよ
Aoi-san is incredibly aggressive, but she fundamentally misunderstood how these swords should have been used. Her attacks were far too straightforward, far too impulsive. Treating her sword as just a simple sword would only translate to a little kid swinging around a tree branch. There was a distinct difference between someone who had been properly instructed on how to wield it and an ordinary high school girl. Dealing with her would be child's play.
西条は死ぬべき男だ。この世に最悪を振りまいたんだから。
Aoi-san had been consumed by hatred. Her negative delusions were clearly visible to me. Pouring out from within her, they transformed into a hulking black miasma and forcibly pierced into my dead spot. Oh, this is I like this connection from ISS route, black miasma. That's a very interesting way of saying it. So I wonder if she could see it in the same way ISS does. But anyway, Aoi-san couldn't have been doing this consciously. However, they wouldn't normally be visible to just anyone she faced. This was a characteristic unique to gigalomaniacs. When facing another human, it was possible to make the surge of emotions visible, and with that, you could lay all their emotions bare. Oh, so she was so she's also capable of ISS ability. I think all gigalomaniacs are capable of that. It's just that Rimi is really just she's well trained on how to use her ability as a gigalomaniac. I focused my attention on the images that were forcefully being projected into, eroding my mind. The emotions that fueled Aoi-san's hatred, her memories. I could see them. Her pain, her sorrow, her memories of the past that tormented her. Oh shit! She is capable of seeing another person's delusions. Which is worse. That means she saw Taku's delusion. She could possibly see almost all of Taku's delusions. That's interesting. In using those memories, I glared at Aoi-san and formed a delusion. I fabricated a fictitious scene that would twist the knife in her wounds. A shudder ran through her body, slowly lowering her sword. She then froze completely. Her expression showed she was clearly shaken. Her eyes were empty. She was no longer looking at me, nor reality. She was now inside the delusion that I had fabricated, but I had just given her a cue. The rest of the story was her own making, guided by her own obsession. And now Aoi-san could no longer fight. I jumped and I could feel a voice reverberating within my mind. Oh. I haven't heard that in a long time. Rena. Rena of Higurashi. I look over toward the container house. A sword of many facets. An overwhelming sense of corrosive misfortune. A pure, unadulterated savagery and the destructive nobility. It was Orihara's Hans Disordo. I can't believe I had a hard time reading that. Upon lifting her disordo high up in the air, Orihara-san smiled cheerfully at me.
私は
殺せ
All of a sudden, Taku raised his voice to a shriek. But
セナもコズピーも敵なんだ敵だったんだだからリミ殺しちゃえよ僕は死にたくない
タク、ちょっと黙ってはーいピスト入り
Orihara-san twisted her lips into a smile.
二人とも 殺しちゃうから
Oh my god, she actually fought her in this fucking route. Although in Kozoe's route, she just jobbed. So, you know, it came like a storm. The sheer speed at which she charged at me was simply inhuman. I was taken by surprise. Orihara-san's D-sword came down on me like a stake being pounded into the earth. I immediately jumped back, but the impact was so strong I was blown back away anyway. I somehow managed to land on my feet. Next came a horizontal swing. I tried to deflect it with my sword, but I failed. I ended up taking the blow head on. My arms went completely numb. Orihara-san charged at me with unbelievable strength. I had no room to counter attack. Okay, it's kind of makes sense. It's kind of making sense now. It's kind of making sense right now how she lost to Kozoe. How was she so adept at fighting? Despite her small frame, Orihara-san swung her giant sword around with no issue. Her footwork was wild and unsteady. Each step she took was incredibly unstable. Her feet were barely touching the ground. Rather than she was being the one swinging the sword, it felt as if the sword was swinging her. As I desperately deflected Orihara-san's blows, just as I had done with Senna, I focused on the negative emotions pouring out within her. Oh, she's gonna rely on Genjutsu right now. The image that appeared in the back of my mind was a mirror. Wasting no time, I sent the delusion to Orihara-san's dead spots. Orihara-san's movements came to a sudden halt. Tears began to pour from her eyes. I let out a sigh of relief. I had to get Taku out of here while I still could. That was when I noticed. I couldn't see Aoi-san anywhere. I looked all over the rooftop and I saw her standing at the very edge of it. I frantically took off running, but before I could reach her, her body slowly drifted forward and then she disappeared over the edge. Oh no! So in Rimi's route, she fucked up and accidentally allowed Aoi to fall, and at the same time, Kozoe they ended up fighting Kozoe. Oh shit! The sound of something crashing into the ground. The sound of something smashing against the earth. I heard it faintly in the distance. Oh no, Aoi's dead. Has she died? Had Aoi-san died? Because of that delusion I showed her? No, I didn't mean to. A fierce blast of wind came from behind me. The impact was tremendous. I felt like I had been hit by a truck. I felt my brain being shaken around inside my skull. Unable to brace myself beforehand, I was sent flying. I hit the ground hard and the sharp pain shot through my entire body. Okay, this is actually super consistent with how she fought Kozoe in her route. This is okay. I hadn't been cut in any way, but I've taken an extremely hard blow from her fiendish D-Sordo. My vision was intensely blurry. I tried to get up, but I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't tell who I was anymore. I might have suffered a light concussion. I tried desperately to look up. Orihara-san was staggering around, cradling her head in her hands. She violently shook it from side to side. Had the illusion I showed her made her lose sight of who she was? She was moving toward Taku. She was going to kill him. Why did you run away? Why are you still here? I had to help him. I closed my fists, but my D-Sordo wasn't in my hand. I accidentally let go of it when I had been hit by the blast earlier. It was lying on the ground a short distance away from me. Taku was crying out for my help. I had to save him. I won't let anyone kill him. But I'm too far away. I won't make it. Orihara-san had already raised her disordo. Taku would die in an instant. He had sunk to his knees and could no longer move. In less than a second, he would literally be crushed by her disordo. I had to save him. No matter what I do, I won't make it. Numerous voices surged within me. My thoughts grew erratic. Countless me's pierced me with their gaze from inside my head. Countless me's whispered with their mouths. The whispers continued to cascade, pulling to a violent flood of voices, each one gnawing away at any and all reason I had. I desperately stood up, but I couldn't do any more than that. I won't make it.
殺させない。
I gritted my teeth. Taku is going to die. Oh, okay. She's not as capable as Takumi is. Takumi is capable of teleportation, man. So she doesn't know she could use her delusion in the same way as Takumi could. Because I'm pretty sure that what Takumi did is no, actually he was able to do that delusion without even using his D-Star, so it might be something very special to Takumi. Kill her. Kill Orihara Kozue. If I can protect him, then nothing else matters. No, it's not like that. Kill her. Wouldn't it be better if Taku died here? Kill Orihara Kozue. Kill Nishiro Takumi. That's the wish of both Sakihata Rumi and Takumi, isn't it? You're wrong.
違う。
Oh no, she's dealing with her multiple personas.
私はタクを
Before I knew it, the disorder was in my hands. It was supposed to be on the ground, yet I was holding it.
私は
I felt the sensation of gouging flesh. I didn't know how close the distance between me and Orihara-san, but when I looked, I saw that the disorder I'd been holding in my hands had sunk deep into her delicate back.
私
I was resisting against a will of some kind. I had no intention of killing her. Or was this really my own will, my true nature? Orihara-san looked back at me with an empty expression in her face.
先畑さん一体野良
This is wrong. I don't want to kill her. If I don't stop, my disorder wiggled and squirmed, as if it had the will of its own. It trembled with the joy of taking a life, the delight of bathing in blood. Oh, shit. So her D-Sword also did the same thing as Kosue's did. I frantically shook my head in denial. Oh, it's the it's the effect of the negativity and all that shit. My disorder's wings, its fangs cracked loudly as it bore into Orihara-san's back. Even now, I was trying to gnaw into her apart.
ダメだってば
I tried pulling it out, but I couldn't. Couldn't move. I couldn't even let go of my sword. Orihara-san coughed up blood, and when it landed on my sword, dyeing it red. Oh man, she got scissored. As if it was a pair of wings spreading, it twisted itself deep into Orihara-san's body and tore her apart. Yeah, she got scissored. Blood burst into the air, and the petite girl who had been alive just a second ago transformed into nothing but mere lumps of flesh. Crimson illusionary feathers poured down around me.
違う私はこんなの望んでない
Seeking desperately for someone to save me, I looked around. Taku was staring at me as if he'd seen a monster.
私は殺すつもりなんてなかった殺すつもりなんてなかったのに
But I killed them anyway. Alright, this is where the fun begins, I guess. Both Senna and Kozubi were dead. They died right before my very eyes, and Rumi had been the one to kill them. Right now, she was lying down on the sofa, sleeping. After Kozubi had died, she started trembling, letting out the scream, then immediately lost consciousness. I hadn't been able to stand up for a while from the shock. I've been scared shitless. My fear had kept building and building, and eventually I couldn't stand to look at Kozubi's bloody corpse any longer. So I got up, carried Rumi into my room, and shut us in. She would occasionally let out a pained moan, but no matter how many times I called her name, she wouldn't regain consciousness. So I just sat down, hugged my knees, and waited for Rumi to wake up. There wasn't much I could do about my trembling. Senna and Kozubi just died after all. Unlike the new gen victims, they were far from being complete strangers. I knew them, talked to them, spent time with them. Just yesterday, the three of us had eaten garikari kuns together. Senna, Kozubi, and I. When I saw the photo with the three of us in it, I bit my lip. It didn't matter how much I wanted to forget it. The scene ripped straight from the nightmare played again and again in the back of my mind. Kosubi's vivid crimson blood, the slimy, sticky texture of glistening bones sticking from her bodies, her emotionless eyes that lost all light, and the indescribable fear and sickness I felt in the moment when I saw another person cease to be a person. The moment when her slender body had been ripped apart had been burned into my retinas. In that moment, I learned how frail people truly were. I felt like I was about to throw up if I didn't end up doing something. That would make it the fourth time I puked. What had ended up as happening to Senna? This was an 8-story building. Having fallen all the way from the roof, there was no way she would have made it out unscathed. She probably, no, definitely died. The two of them were both dead. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't be real. It couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a nightmare. Yeah, that was the only explanation. Dying in such a horrific way. And if that wasn't already enough, it was Remy who had killed them. I didn't want to believe it. There was no way I could, but it was the truth. I didn't understand why Senna and Kozubi had suddenly turned hostile and tried to attack me. She had said something about LIR2. It probably had something to do with my essay from back when I was a kid, but I couldn't care less about that now. After that, Remy had been revealed to be a gigalomaniac, something that honestly hadn't surprised me too much. But then she fought to protect me. She might have gone too far, sure, but there was no way I was going to hold a grudge over that. Still, if things stayed like this, both Remy and I would be caught by the police. Senna and Kozubi's horses were lying around out there. Eventually, someone would find them and notify the police. I couldn't get caught, as if I'll ever let that happen. I could just tell the truth. I hadn't killed anyone. After all, Remy had. And besides, Senna and Kozubi attacked me first, so I had to count that had to count legally as self-defense. But I was well aware that none of that would work, because when the crucifixion had happened, I almost been named the culprit. There was no doubt in my mind that it would go exactly the same way this time. Moreover, I needed Remy. If she didn't exist, if she wasn't here to protect me from the threat of Shogun, I would be completely fucked. So when I learned the truth that she was a gigalomaniac, I haven't been horrified. If anything, I welcomed it. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't just a naive high schooler. She was my ally, one who even wielded the power to protect me from Shogun. That was why I wanted her to wake up so badly, and sooner rather than later. I'll get her to erase Senna Kozubi's corpses with her delusion powers. And once she did that, the police will no longer be able to get us. Nobody had found their bodies yet, right? Holding back my urge to throw up, I looked at the door. Kozubi's bloody corpse was just outside and therefore unlikely to be found, but Senna wasn't. Senna had fallen off the roof, meaning someone could easily stumble upon what was left of her. It would be the end of that if that happened. Seeing as how Remy wasn't waking up, I had to cover up their bodies somehow. Just the mere prospect terrified me. I didn't want to even look at someone's corpse. And that wasn't even mentioning the fact that I knew them, which made it so much worse. Even so, I desperately shook away my fears and then I went outside. I had to ensure my and Remy's safety. Oh, this is so fucked up, man. It was already dark out, leaving my surroundings very dim. I didn't have the moon to help. The clouds were hiding it. Straining my eyes, I looked over where Kozubi was lying. Huh? But I couldn't find it. I couldn't find Kozubi's tragic corpse. There was still a pool of blood, so I couldn't laugh it off as it was all just a dream plot twist, where her corpse was completely gone. What the? Starting to get really confused, I struck my head over the edge of the roof and peered down at the street below. There was no one there, and Senna's corpse wasn't there either. There was clearly something down there, something I immediately understood to be a pool of blood, but that was it. No people, nor corpse, nobody freaking out, nothing. Where had her corpse gone? The corpse had definitely been there after Remy had lost consciousness, so Remy couldn't have erased her with her gigalomaniac's power. But then, who could have? Ayase? No, she was still in the hospital. She was still hospitalized in Yoyogi. Then Shogun? But he was my enemy. There was no way he'd ever do something that would have benefited me. What the hell was going on? Feeling both vaguely anxious and incredibly relieved, the corpse disappearing, I let out a deep sigh. I'm trying to think if it's. I don't think Nozomi would have like a Nozomi slash the Cosmic Church of Divine Light would have an incentive to do that. I'm guessing it really is I guess it really is Shogun. Then I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I was being watched. Yeah, it's Shogun. I think it's Shogun. It was the usual mysterious gaze. Shogun, is that you watching me?
僕を見るな。
I ducked into my room. Rumi had gotten up. She was looking around the room with a vacant expression in her face. I guess she finally woken up. But what should I say to her? Killing Senna and Kozubi had been a pretty extreme shock to her. Then again, that was bound to happen if you killed someone. It wasn't like peeking in ESO. She also said she didn't mean to, and I was sure that only made it worse. I didn't know what to say at the time like this, so in the end I couldn't help but say nothing. Rumi looked at me, then tilted her head curiously.
ここ、どこかな？
え？
あなたは、誰？
Oh, don't tell me she killed her own personality. Her persona. So this is a new persona. Persona. Fuck. Baby, 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 baby. Fuck. This. Yeah. So I'm playing this game when day after when Persona 3 Reloaded got released to the world. So, am I gonna play that game? No. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to go through the death of Jesus once again. That rooftop, man. That rooftop. Anyway, Rumi was acting strange.
リミどうしちゃったの？
リミ？リミって誰だろう？
What is Eri Kitamura doing here, man? This is so amazing.
私かな？私、リミじゃないよ。
And who are you now?
何言ってるんだよ。しっかりしてよ。
私のお名前は、お名前は、わかんないや。
嘘でしょ。嘘だよね。
I pressed her for an answer.
本当だよ。
Right when she said that, Rumi jumped into my arms and started clinging to me. She rubbed her cheeks against mine like some spoiled kid wanting attention. Having her so close to me and so suddenly at that, I started panicking.
あなた、誰？私のお友達かな？きっとそうだよね。
Oh my god, I think she mentally reverted to pre-gigalomaniac. Like before she got, before she got kidnapped by Nozomi, man. Because this, she's talking like a kid. Oh wait, this is spoilers. I have an idea about her past. Anyway, let's continue. This is what's happening.
お友達ってね、つまりね、私に親切にしてくれる人のこと。あなたは怒らない？私、怒られるの、やだ。
You know, I just remembered that scene in Code Geass when CC deliberately sealed her memories and she was reverted to her state before she was before she got her code. I mean Geass. Let's go back to Geass because Geass was way further before her code. So Lelouch had to, So anyway, Takumi's having the same situation right now.
あとね、痛いのもすごく嫌だな。
Amnesia, or maybe even some form of age regression. There you go. This is the word I was thinking about. I thought this kind of thing only happened in eroge. I would have never dreamed of actually running into a situation like this in IRL. But that was only a possibility. The sheer amount Rumi had freaked out when she killed Kozupi wasn't normal. And
ギガロマニアックスとなったものは誰だろうと一度は壊れているんだよ。
I remember the late I love it. The late Senna's words. Rest in peace, Kazusa. Rimi might have broken once again. She killed her own heart and mind. Suddenly those words came to mind. I couldn't quite remember where, but I had a feeling that someone had told me that before. That Rimi had killed her own mind for the shock of having killed Kozupi and Senna, and I was talking to an entirely new personality. She had created. I could understand why she was acting like a kid, like a child. I'm surprised Takumi was getting. He immediately understood his situation right now. DID, dissociative identity disorder, also known as multiple personalities. Oh my God, Tomasane is back. Tomasane is back. Mamiya Takaji is back. Minakami Yuki is also back. Holy shit! This is just Tsubahime all over again. You had accused of me having it. Obviously, I didn't have it. But maybe Rimi was suffering from it now. Well, technically, when Takuji attempted to kill Tomasane, but he fell. And, from the shock of, Yuki dying, he developed DID himself. Quote unquote DID. I don't know, maybe it's just I don't know. Let's just continue. This was all speculation, of course. What I didn't know though was that the childlike Rimi in front of me now was nothing like the Rimi I knew. Wait. It wasn't the same girl who told me she'd stay by my side. The girl whose kindness had enveloped me. She was completely different now.
こんなの
I fell to my knees on the spot. I was overwhelmed with despair. As Remy clung to me playfully, she peered at my face curiously. Her eyes were so sincere, so beautiful. Purity overflowed from them. Purity that I couldn't stare back into. In a way, we were lucky that Senna and Kozupi's corpses had disappeared. But if Remy was like this, who was supposed to protect me now? Remy, not that I knew whether or not to even call her that, had genuinely lost all her memories. Or, I suppose you could say this Remy didn't have memories at all.
私はリミっていうの？
そうだよ。崎畑リミ。
崎畑リミ。そうなんだ。
And the way she talked, you wouldn't think we were talking about her literal name.
あなたは？お名前なんていうのかな？
僕は西条拓。
Having to teach her something so basic like day one's thought was just thinking about where this was going to lead. Just left me feeling even worse than before.
西条拓海。拓だね。
Oh, that was good. That was good. So that part is still her. She would shortcut their names. It was the same. Her nickname for me was the same.
ねえねえタク、私ね、手がベトベトしてるの。
The dried blood on her hands clung to her skin. The dark red discoloration of hers was Kozubi's blood, or at least it should have been. Her corpse has vanished, but her blood still remained.
ベトベト、やだな。
Rumi looked pretty sad as she stared at her hands. I was reminded of Kozubi's smile, and I was hit with a horrible ache in my chest. Trying my best to hold myself together, I got a wet towel ready for her.
ほら手出して。
When I told her that, Rumi timidly held out both her hands. Using the towel, I started cleaning the blood off them. Every time I glanced at it, the previously white towel got redder and redder. To make sure I got it all off, I had to scrub kind of hard, as I wiped away the blood, making sure to get even between her fingers.
くすぐったい。
Rumi laughed cheerfully. She must have no idea why she had blood in her hands. Well, wasn't she fucking acting carefree? You know what? Clean them yourself. Why should I have to babysit you? But there was no way I could actually say that. Rumi had tried her best to protect me, and because of that, regardless of whether or not it had been intentional, she killed someone, and then her heart and mind broke completely. So I couldn't just leave her to fend for herself. After all, I was also responsible for her being like this.
ほら綺麗になったよ。
ありがとう。ピカピカだ。私の手。すっきりしたよ。
Took my hands, intertwined her fingers with mine, and innocently shook them up and down. She seemed so happy. It was like she was a little kid. For some reason, her smile left me feeling wistful.
ねえリミ、君は僕を守ってくれる？
守る？何を？
僕を。
私ね、よくわかんない。でもね、タクは私のお友達だから私に親切にしてくれるよね。だからね、私タクがいてくれてよかったよ。
It was no use. There was no point talking to her anymore. The Rumi who was supposed to protect me wasn't there anymore. I hung my head. Rumi wasn't supposed to be here. Where was she? Where was her house? She needed to get home. I thought of reaching out to her family, but I couldn't find anything among her stuff with their contact information. If I went to school, the teachers would most likely know her address. Problem was, it was already fairly late, so I probably wouldn't be able to get in to ask. Actually, now that I thought about it, I didn't really know much about Rumi. Where did she live? How big was her family? When was her birthday? What was her favorite food? Oh, I had to watch one of the opening videos to answer this question because it literally answers when's her birthday and what's her favorite food. Oh, she likes buckwheat, right? Anyway, she likes buckwheat. I remember watching the movie. I was like, oh, she likes buckwheat. I didn't know anything about her, and because of that, there was nothing I could do for her.
タク。
Rumi called my name as she pulled on the hem of my shirt.
ねえねえタク。私ね、お腹ペコペコ。
What time was it? It was already dark outside and also dinner time. Unfortunately, I didn't have any spare food here. I would have to go buy something.
何が食べたい？
Had she also forgotten about food due to her memory loss? Did she not know what different kinds of food there were? What they tasted like?
そうだ。ね、私、お蕎麦が食べたい。
Oh, there you go. Buckwheat. This is it. I knew it. It was worth it. I knew it. Holy shit. Holy shit!
おそば
Soba!
お蕎麦
好きなの
好き。
なんで食べたことある
食べたことないかも。でもね、お蕎麦は好きだよ。
What was going on? Was she starting to regain her memories? Or was her previous self's sense of taste the only thing she remembered? If she got her memories back, I'll be saved. For the time being, though, I had to go to the supermarket to buy some soba.
リミここで待ってて絶対外に出ちゃダメだビシ
Bishi? Yeah, I think you said the word Bishi. Bishi? I tentatively stuck to what was that previous Remy had done all the time. Bishi? No, it was like this. No, it's like this. Because she had to do the thing here. She was like, Bishi? Fuck. I put one hand against my head as if I was saluting her. Maybe this would make Rumi remember. That was my train of thought, at least, but...
石？何？かっこいいね。
She had no idea what I was doing. Her eyes were sparkling with curiosity, not recognition. So incredibly embarrassed, I wanted out in the room. That's so cute. On the way to the supermarket, I checked to see if the police were around or not. Just as I thought, Senna and Kozubi's horses had disappeared. If there were any police around, it was possible that there had been a witness, but if there weren't, that would mean no one had found them. In other words, that we might have some time before we were found out. Of course, I wasn't just wary of the police, but Shogun too. He could show up completely out of nowhere at any time, so I paid extremely close attention to any shadows where he could have been lurking in. Thankfully, I didn't feel God's gaze at the moment, but even then, I still didn't want to go out at night. The darkness scared me. And when I walked through the darkest parts of that darkness, I could faintly see the scene of the dead Kozubi and Senna start to form. Their bodies, mutilated and disfigured, slowly took shape. I quickly averted my eyes and hurried to the supermarket, keeping my eyes strained on my feet. Once I got back to my base, I got a portable stove and started boiling the water for the soba. He's so loaded from RMT, man. My container didn't exactly have any form of ventilation, and there was flammable shit everywhere, so it was honestly pretty dangerous. Regardless, I went ahead and tossed the soba into the pot. Instant noodles, of course. Rumi was staring at the noodles with a spark of curiosity in her eyes.
お蕎麦ってこうやって作るんだね。
Kozubi's pool of blood was still there. It was practically all dried up now, since it was nighttime. It just looked like some weird black stain. I broke down all the empty cardboard boxes I piled up and set them on top of it. I knew it wouldn't resolve the problem, but I didn't want to see it if I could help it.
たくん、こぼれそうだよ。
When I heard her say that, I went back to check the stove. It was boiling pretty intensely, and it was on the brink of overflowing, but instead of doing anything about it, she just kept saying, "Whoa!"
火を消して
Rumi tilted her head and turned the dial on the stove. The wrong way!
売れたよ。すごい。
いやすごいじゃないでしょ
I frantically pushed Rumi aside and turned off the burner. There was hot water everywhere. It shouldn't really matter, as long as it's edible. She shouldn't have cared too much about how it tasted or its texture. So I took the pot, drained the water from it, and immediately rinsed the soba noodles. Though it was worth noting that I only done so because the instructions told me to, not because I was some master soba chef.
冷やしとあったかいのとどっちがいい
It was cool he actually asked this question.
冷たいの。
I plopped the noodles in the bowl and poured in the base I bought as well. All I had for toppings was some green onion. I chopped it up to make a decent garnish. Then it was ready to go. I took Remy back to my room in a hurry. I'll leave the cleaning for tomorrow when it's bright outside. But right now I want to spend as little time as possible outside, especially since there was a faint smell of blood out there. It felt as if Senna and Kozubi could show up even now. They're drenched in blood and they'd start walking toward me like zombies. Sure, that was more based on the occult than reality, but it still scared me nonetheless.
ねえ、たっくん、食べていい？食べていい？
It was pretty clear that Remy didn't have any of the intense worries I had. Actually, maybe it was precisely because of those things that she changed to an entirely new personality, in order to completely erase the memory of having killed people.
どうぞ。
いただきます。
She then grabbed the chopsticks I'd given her. She was holding them like a fork though. And instead of using them, she stuck her mouth on the edge of the bowl and started slurping it up directly. Yeah, I don't care what anyone says. That's how a lolly eats. Thank you very much. She must have even forgot how to hold chopsticks correctly. She also forgot how soba was made and how to turn off a simple stove. And yet she had remembered it was polite to thank people for making stuff for you. Maybe that meant that her understanding of the world around her had regressed.
食べられないよ。
え？
食べられない。
Remy was getting frustrated at her own inability to eat soba. I mean, considering how she was trying to go about it, of course she wouldn't be able to.
食べさせて。
なんと。
Was she for real? She was asking me to feed her? I felt like I was a babysitter at this point, or perhaps a dad, but having a daughter at the same age as me. Oh God, I didn't know if I could handle that.
たっくん。
What does that mean? Are you making her your daughter or wife or something, bro? What the fuck? She bleated with her puppy dog eyes, and since I couldn't really say no to those, I let out a sigh and gave in.
ほら。あーんして。
Oh, that's so cute. Remy took the soba I was holding out to her in her mouth and started chewing it. With a smile on her face, she seemed to really like it.
おいしいわ。
それはいい。よかった。
Suddenly a thought crossed my mind. A laid-back, relaxing life with a 3D girl. That was definitely what I was looking for. A life with no overly dramatic eroge-esque plot points. Not having to worry about the heroine's emotional baggage. Not having to worry about having feelings for each other yet being too afraid to speak up. And not having to worry about getting dragged into a murder case. A life that you wouldn't find in books or video games. And yet I have a feeling that that was what I really wanted. And that very light was actually unfolding right before my very eyes. Not only that, but Remy was here with me too. Being honest with myself, Remy was cute. She also said she would protect me, and I too wanted to stay with her forever if I could. But this was all fake, a lie. This life wouldn't last. And Remy wasn't Remy. Our time would be far too short, far too fleeting. The thought of it made me feel sad, wistful, and empty.
戻ってきてよ。リミ。本当に戻ってくれ。
I couldn't help but whisper those words.
メールだよ。ボケなす。
I was taken by surprise. I heard Seira-tan's voice come from my PC. I just received an email from someone. Was it from Shogun? I had a bad feeling about this. This couldn't be good. I didn't want to look.
僕を見るな。
I felt the gaze. Someone was looking at me. It felt even more evident than usual. I looked around me, but there was no one besides me and Remy in this room. My hand had stopped because of that, and Remy was fighting hard to try and wrestle the soap into her mouth. She wasn't looking at me, which meant there was no one else it could have possibly been. I didn't even need to ask, Sonome? Darenome? Groaning, I headed for the PC and checked my inbox. Awaken. This is at least it's the real Shogun. I like how the translation lets you know if it's the fake Shogun, it's the real Shogun. Although that's kind of spoilery having done that though. I've only received one email, and the sender was Shogun.
くそくそ
What was he plotting now? Was he gonna kidnap Nanami for real this time instead of just faking it? Or maybe he was gonna he was finally gonna come and kill me directly once and for all. The fear made all my hair stand on end. The chills on the nape of my neck grew even stronger. I didn't feel any good and my head was starting to hurt somewhat. Don't look at me. With the trembling fingers, I clicked on the mouse and opened the email.
あれ
Huh? There was nothing written in it. It was only the subject line, Awaken, which read Awaken. There was nothing written in the body. Awaken? What did he mean by that? Was he telling me to awaken as a gigalomaniac? You had to be fucking kidding me.
バカにして
I had a feeling he said something similar the first time we met.
僕を怯えさせてそんなに楽しいか
I was angry, but at the same time, I wanted to fend off the fear lurking deep inside me. I hit the keyboard hard with my hands. Static came from the speakers. I had clicked something by accident.
目覚めてもう時間がない
I heard something. Mixing with all that static, I heard something. I hurriedly checked my PC. The MP3 player wasn't running, and there weren't any videos playing in my browser. I thought maybe Shogun's email had included some kind of virus. But there was no files attached to it.
時間がないんだ
Again, I heard it again. Okay, we lost. The sweat ran down my forehead. Oh, I could just turn off the sound. If I did that, I'll stop hearing this extremely weird static. I opened the sound settings in the bottom right corner with the mouse. I checked the option to mute everything in the volume mixer. Once I did that, I wouldn't hear anything. I wouldn't have to listen to static nor anything resembling a voice within the static. I was extremely tired, freaked out, but of course I was. It had only been 2 hours since 2 people I knew had died right in front of me. Not to mention the weird stuff I've been seeing at the hospital when I gone to visit Ayase, or the strange calls from Nanami. So I had to be just mishearing some things amid the static. Right.
目覚めて
A voice
時間がないんだ
was coming from the speaker.
もうすぐサードメルトが起き
I clearly heard him. It was him. That been Shogun's voice. The same voice that talked to me at Scramble Crossing.
なんでだよミュートにしたはずだろ
タク、サードメルトって何？
Melt. Tardu Melto. Acting just as she had been for the past couple of hours, tilted her head as she looked at me with innocent eyes. I came up close to her, grabbed her by the shoulder, and shook them.
リビ頼むよしっかりしてよ
痛いよ。
言ってくれ僕を守るって言ってくれよ僕は一人じゃ耐えられないこのままじゃ殺される
痛くしないで。
僕は君を責めないから君がいてくれないと困るんだだから
痛いの。やだ。
Tears trickled down her face. I was scaring her. Every couple of seconds, her shoulders trembled. I slowly let go of her.
頼むよ目を覚まし
Wait, the third melt just happened? This early? The floor started shaking violently. An earthquake? It was bigger than the last one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. During the set of these events, the third melt actually does take place. Oh my god. We even just started Rimi's route, so I don't know how this is gonna go. I was struck with violent ringing in my ears. It was an intense, shrill, resonant sound. My head felt like I was about to burst open. It felt like my ears were being pierced by thousands upon thousands of needles, as though my brain was being stirred into a mush by a blender. And then I was hit by an enormous impact, and the blinding light dyed my vision completely white. I was awash with an elusive feeling of being immersed in lukewarm water. The waves gently rocked me back and forth as I drifted along its surface. As I slowly opened my eyes, a vibrant blue sky spread out before me. It feels almost like I could fall into it. It was a rather strange sky. The sun was nowhere to be seen, even though I was supposed to be in my room, even though it was supposed to be nighttime. When could have I possibly gone outside? When could it have possibly turned to day? With the last earthquake, I've been out for more than an hour. Maybe this time I've been unconscious for the entire night, I thought to myself. I remembered the earthquake's tremendous impact, that another elusive feeling hit me, like the tremors were resonating with the very blood coursing through my veins, threatening to burst open from the inside. Maybe this was heaven. Maybe I died in that earthquake. Heaven, huh? There was no way an otaku freak like me would go to heaven. That wasn't even mentioning how I hadn't been able to save my own little sister, how I've been the worst possible brother to her, how I made Rimi kill Senna and Kozupi. Hell would it be a far more fitting place for someone like me, although obviously I'd choose heaven if it could. My body didn't feel quite right. I was being overwhelmed by a sensation of walking on top of a fluffy cloud. I couldn't quite understand it. But regardless of how I felt, I forced myself to get up. The feeling of being rocked by waves hadn't simply been my imagination after all. This was a world with a never-ending surface of crystal clear water. A world where no matter where I looked, blue filled my view. And I had been right in the middle of it, lying down. Where was I? Was this really heaven? But I felt like I've seen the scenery before.
あの空はどこにあるの？
A voice resonated within my mind. A voice which rose from the depths of my memories. Right, I remember now. I've seen this in a dream before. Rimi had been there. I talked to her as she looked up at the blue sky, her face clearly one of holding back tears. Was I seeing the same dream I had back then? But no matter where I looked, there was no one other than me. There was no one here, not even Rimi. It was far too reposeful. Rimi? I tried calling out her name, but my words were entirely mute. And yet, even without sound, they created ripples across the calm surface of water. Are you there? Sounds was the series of vibrations, and those vibrations in turn created waves. Among those waves, just like I had been a few moments ago, there was someone lying down. I stood up, my field of vision expanded. The one drifting along the waves was Rimi. She was so unbelievably pale, as if she appeared as if she was dead. Her eyes were closed, and both of her hands were resting gently on her chest. And she simply stayed that way, facing up to the sky, not moving even a single inch. Rimi, wake up! Even though I called out to her, she didn't react. She was dead. I knew that for certain. But it wasn't just her. The world itself was dead. And so I just stood there, not knowing what to do. Right at that very moment, Rimi's prone body gradually sank beneath the surface of the water. As soon as I realized what was happening, she was already completely submerged. How was I standing on top of water at all, I wondered. Curious, I fixed my gaze below the water's surface. Beyond it, there was only darkness. The sky was so bright, and yet, even though the water was so clear, below it, there was only eternal darkness that seemed to swallow all. And Rimi, still lying on her back, was slowly sinking farther and farther into its depths. I had to go after her. I needed to wake her up. But as soon as that thought crossed my mind, even though I had been able to stand on water until then, all support suddenly disappeared from under me. I sank. My body grew heavier with each passing second. It was like I was underwater, but it wasn't as though I couldn't breathe. The water was very warm too. I just wanted to drip with this comfortable sensation for all eternity. That was the way it made me feel. If I had to give an example, rather than ocean water, it was more like amniotic fluid. This very well might have been how a fetus felt inside its mother's womb. I thought the darkness continued forever, but in truth there was a bottom to it. It was so dark I couldn't even see my feet. I simply felt an odd sticky sensation on my soles. I stood in the middle of the darkness. When I looked up, I found I could no longer see the surface. That blue sky too had been veiled completely by the darkness. The sole source of light was a single ray that descended down from above like a thin thread. Much like the spotlight would, it pointed to a single place. Yet, unlike a spotlight, there was nothing beneath it to be illuminated. It only lit up a meaningless spot. Nervously, I stepped into the light. It was ever so faint and gentle, but the moment I bathed in it, my chest began to ache. What was the sensation? It felt almost as if I could cry at a moment's notice, as if my heart itself was being rended. That was the sensation that overtook me. Where could Rumi be right now after sinking all the way down here? Relying on the faint light source alone, I made my way out from beneath the spot of light, then searched the darkness. Soon my toes hit something soft and yielding. I kneeled down, and this time I tried touching it with my hand. What I felt was so cold it was capable of freezing my very fingertips. Little by little, my eyes adjusted to the darkness, and before long I realized something. I was touching a person lying collapsed on the ground. Remy. Wake up. I tried shaking her. Remy, wake up. But there was no reaction. She wasn't breathing. Taking her feeble hand, I measured her pulse. She was dead. She had no pulse whatsoever. Dismayed, I strained my eyes to examine the surrounding darkness, only to find she wasn't the only one. Countless other remains had collapsed on the ground, almost as if this place were a burial ground. And every single one of them was dead. This was a graveyard, the graveyard of her heart. That was how it felt to me. Suddenly, countless of bubbles sprang forth before my eyes, and within each and every one of them, I could see different visions being displayed. An instinctive realization came to me. I knew them, that these were Rumi's dead memories.
私の最初の記憶は、落ちてくる雨と、空を覆い隠した、どんよりとした雲。
Wait, I need to get some water. Fun stuff. Her first memory. Okay, this is her line. How long ago that been? It was around the time I was just an elementary schooler, maybe 6 years ago. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. It In it I saw my dad, whose head had been blown away, and my mom, who had been crushed completely by steel right next to me. Even though only a moment prior we had been celebrating inside the car, happy as could be about our family trip. An enormous truck had closed in on us, and before I even knew what was happening, the car I had in been completely flattened. I had been stuck. I had been struck by intense pain, and my consciousness began to grow blurry, feeling as if my very body was being torn apart. This sharp squeal of brakes played an endless refrain for my ears.
次の記憶は手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long that was. It was right after losing my parents, maybe 5 years ago. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
担当医に剣のようなものが見えたと言ったそうですね。
Oh shit, this is not a say.
聞こえていますか？
I had a feeling someone had called my name, but I could no longer recall what exactly that name was, for it was now a dead name.
まだ傷が癒えていないようですね。ご両親が目の前で亡くなったのもショックでしたか？では聞いているだけで結構。私はこの AH 東京総合病院の名誉院長でありスポンサーでもあるノロセと言います。君はギガロマニアックスである可能性があります。ぜひその力に覚醒していただきたい。幸いにも君は天涯孤独になったので、親族などの煩わしい連中も湧いては来ない。というわけで、君は今日をもって死亡扱いとなりました。以後、この地下室で過ごしてもらいます。何の心配もいりません。ここは私しか知らない部屋ですから。
Jesus Christ.
頑張って目覚めてください。期待していますよ。君は実験台です。力を持つ非覚醒者を目覚めさせるためには何が必要か、いろいろと試させてもらいます。明日からね。
I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for I hated the dark more than anything.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
「実に我慢強いお嬢さんですね、君は。背中の皮膚がただれて血が出ているのになぜ耐えようとするのです？早く目覚めれば楽になるというのに。
I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed. It would soon all be over without me having to see anything more.
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Been having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
痛いですか？皮膚の表面を切るだけですよ。血はたくさん出ますが、死ぬほどではありません。3日も放置すれば、可能してかゆみがひどいことになるでしょう。そこからが今回の実験の本番です。安心してください。私は医者なのでね、メスの扱いには慣れています。そうですね。10箇所ほど切り刻みましょうか。
I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed. It would soon all be over without me having to see anything anymore.
次の記憶も、
Oh man, she has a lot of
手
memories of
術台
being
の上から見
tortured,
た、
man.
眩しい光と、
Oh my god,
男
Remy.
の人の声。
This fucking asshole. I wondered how long that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
そうですか、かゆいですか。しかし、引っかくことは許しませんよ。人というのは実に不思議なものでしてね。痛みは意外と我慢することができるのですが、かゆみはそうでもないのです。痛みよりもかゆみの方が精神をおかしくさせるには効果的かもしれませんね。
I'm pretty sure her shaiki was already broken so many times already. So I don't know, man. Fuck. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed. It would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. And then I killed my own self.
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
左上腕はこれで粉砕骨折というところですか。
Oh, that really hurts. They broke her bone.
まだ目覚めないとは、一体何が足りないのでしょうね。しょうがない。今日の実験はこれぐらいにしておきましょう。ゆっくり休んでください。
I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed. And it would be soon all be over without me having to see anything more. And then I killed my own self. Oh my god. Even going through this sequence is already
次の記憶
torturous.
も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
Like for the audience, like Obviously, there's some. It depends on how much you like Remy, on how much she get hurt when she gets tortured and all that. But the real torture here is having to go through this sequence. This is a long ass sequence, making you go through every single fucking torture she goes. I mean, you could skip, but I'm like, I'm with Remy here, man. I want to experience the torture myself, and I'm not being like, I want to feel pain or whatever. It's like it's part of the experience, you know, because in your head you'll be like, Norris is a fucking asshole, man. I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Is she being drowned or something? This is Euphoria. This is Euphoria all over again. Not that Euphoria is the worst thing ever, but you know.
ウォーターボーディングはアメリカ CIA がつい最近まで拷問方法として用いていた最も安易で最も効果的で最も苦しませることができる技術です。いわゆる水攻めというものですね。わずかな水の量だけであなたに溺死した錯覚を味わわせることができるのですよ。21世紀においていまだにこのような古典的な拷問を行っている。実に面白いではありませんか。
I continue to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I do so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. By the way, she kept allowing herself to die until she met Shogun, and she said she had like endured every single torture ever since then. Oh my god! And then I killed my own self. So that means when she, oh yeah, are they also gonna show the sequence when she finally stops killing herself and she still goes through the torture?
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
I wondered how long that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Bro, I'm also being tortured.
私は麻酔を扱うのはこれが初めてなのですが。
I mean, I'm the type of person who goes through the endless eight, and I don't skip. It's torture.
どうやらうまくいったようですね。気分はいかがですか？君は今、首から下が麻痺している状態です。自分の体を思うままに動かせないというのは、ストレスのたまることだと思いませんか？とりあえず、その状態で1年ほど過ごしてみましょう。1日に1度、点滴で栄養を与えますから、心配はいりません。では、良いお年を。
Oh my god, she literally had a year where she was conscious and for a fucking year. Holy shit! I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. As I remained there, I felt as like I saw amidst the white light something that looked almost like a pair of wings. And then I killed my own self. She was starting to see her own disorder, but she couldn't reach it yet.
次の記憶は、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光だけ。
I wondered how long that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. No matter how many times I called out, no one came for me. Nothing moved. I couldn't move anything, not even a twitch of a finger. I simply stared vacantly at the light hanging from the ceiling. There was nothing else I could do. As I remained there, I felt I saw something amidst the white light, something that looked almost like feathers fluttering about. And then I killed my own self. Oh my god. For a fucking year.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光だけ。
You know, I've been listening to Aries' delivery, and you can feel her getting tired. I don't know if she is actually getting tired, or she, you know, she had to repeat the lines multiple times, and I can't tell if she got tired in the process, or like she she I can't tell if she went all in, went method acting on this, or if she was like, she just made herself more tired than tired. But I have a feeling she had to repeat this line multiple times, just so it would be easier for her to be more authentic about this. I wonder how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. No matter how many times I called out, no one came for me. Nothing moved. I couldn't move anything, not even the twitch of a finger. I simply stared vacantly at the light hanging from the ceiling. There was nothing else I could do. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amidst the white light, something that looked almost like feathers fluttering about. And then I killed my own self.
次の記憶は手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wonder how long that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
実に醜い姿ですね。一年もの間、そこで横たわっていた気分はどうですか？己の糞便にまみれ、骨と皮だけの姿となり、尊厳を奪われた気分はどうだったのかと聞いているのです。
Oh my god, she pooped herself and she went thin on her own. Maybe oh man, I don't know.
ですが安心してください。殺しはしませんよ。この実験が始まってそろそろ3年になりますか。私はね、君のことが愛おしくてたまらない。かけがえのない存在ですよ、君は。ギガロマニアックスを強制的に覚醒させることはとても難しく時間がかかる。ですが、君には早く目覚めてもらいたいのです。期待していますよ。
I continued to stare fixedly at the light hanging from the ceiling, for if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything anymore. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amidst the white light, something that looked almost like feathers fluttering down, together with a pair of wings. And then I killed my own self. What number was my current self? That's enough. Make it stop. Please! To think there was such a tragic past behind Remy's smile. I took one of Remy's corpses that was lying on the ground and brought it close to my chest. It was incredibly cold. I could tell it was devoid of a soul. But even so, I needed her. I want you here with me, Remy. I then wish and crafted the delusion. Wake up. Please. Wake up, Remy. You're the only one who can save me. I know this is selfish of you, but I need you to protect me. I know this is presumptuous of me. Even though I'm a total loser, I feel like I can change if I'm with you. So please, wake up, Remy. Oh no, we have a schizo moment. Oh yeah, it's obviously a delusion. The next thing I knew, I found myself in the blue-filled world once again. Waves ran across the surface of the water. And then, slowly rising from the depths, were countless Remys. Every one of them had their eyes closed and was standing still as could be on top of the water. I'm having a Ray moment here, bro. This is literally Ray. Eventually, they started moving. However, they didn't do so using their legs, but simply glided across the water. One Remy then overlapped one another, then the same one overlapped with yet another one. The Remys are merging together. Dumbfounded, I just stood there and watched. Eventually, there was only 4 of them left, then 2. And then the last 2 Remys slowly melded together. Oh my god, he's reconstructing Remy by using every single Remy. And became one. Her eyes opened. And then she looked at me. Could this Remy had been the one I knew? That Remy? Or was it an entirely different one? I'm pretty sure one of them is the Remy you knew, and the rest of them were like the Remy that got fucked. I didn't know. I was afraid to call her name, so I waited for her to say something. But instead of speaking, she showed me a warm smile. Raising her hand to her head, she struck her usual pose. Remy nodded, and she embraced me. I buried my face in her chest. The feeling of her soft, supple breasts spread across my cheeks. Gravity soon disappeared, and the 2 of us began drifting along the brew. With her still lying on the ground, Remy held me as she gently stroked my hair. I couldn't describe how wonderful that felt. It was as if the very essence of all her wine and warmness was enveloping me. It kind of reminded me how I felt when my mom hugged me back when I was a kid, how safe I'd feel in her arms. I wanted to stay like this forever, but at the same time, I wanted to confirm for myself that she was Remy, so I turned my head just enough to look at her face. Even with that horrific face behind her, she still had the brightest smile.
自分の心を自殺させることで消してきたたくさんのもの。でも思い出さない方がまだ楽だったかな。
リミ。
Rumi, despite looking she was about to cry, still made an effort to show a smile. She intertwined her fingers with my hair.
キスしようか。
Before I know it, my chin had been forcibly raised by a captivating aroma filled me, and something warm and tender pressed against my lips. Right before me was her face. Her eyes were closed. I could feel her soft breaths. So this was a kiss, so sweet and so pleasant. It felt like my brain itself was turning to mush. From just a kiss alone, my heart was filled with love for her. An otaku freak like me depended on her so, yet even still, desired her everything. I closed my eyes and ingrained that sensation in my memories. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my room. Rumi was lying on the floor with me still in her embrace. Slowly, she parted from my lips.
ただいま。
うん。
Rumi was acting shy, something I found incredibly cute. Our eyes met, the two of us were blushing hard. Had bodies always been this soft, huh? Treaty! For the win! Finally, even I got a real girlfriend. Nobody would ever call me an unpopular otaku freak ever again.
約束したもんね。タクを守るって。
僕を守ってくれる？
守るよ。タクも、タクミも、ナナちゃんも。
What was she trying to say? Ignoring my confusion, Rumi averted her gaze from me and looked up at the ceiling.
前は、タクミに心を救ってもらって、今度は、タクに心を助けてもらって。だから、今度こそ、私があなたたちを守る。
I still don't understand what she meant by Taku and Takumi, but what I did know was that if she was there to protect me, I wouldn't need to worry about anything more anymore. She was a gigalomaniac, and she would keep me safe. Okay, I have an idea. This route is not going to end well, because we already know in the other routes, Rumi would lose fighting Norase, and I doubt that even her full memory version is strong enough to defeat Norase, man. It really has to be Takumi to beat. It really has to be Nakumi so they can beat Norase. No matter what Shogun had asked her to do, she had been able to pull it off. As long as I was with her, that'll be enough for me.
私、頑張るね。頑張って、罪滅ぼしもするし、あなたたちからの恩にも報いるから。
Atoning for her sins? What was she talking about? Was she talking about what she'd done to Senna and Kozubi? But that had been legitimate self-defense. She hadn't had a choice, and that should have been how she thought about it. He doesn't know about the fact it's actually about, like, you know, she's actually watching out for him because he, you know. Anyway, but what felt far more strange to me was how she said you both. Who else did she mean?
だから今は、眠って、タク。
I could feel vibrations coming from her body from her every word. Even now, her fingers were still stroking my hair. I felt so at peace, and so very sleepy. Reveling in the happiness of falling asleep in her arms, I close my eyes. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. I really, really doubt she's gonna win against Norase, man. We already know she loses. If she tries to face him on his own, on her own. And then literally took Takumi. And Takumi barely survived that fight. And he had to turn himself to something not human in order to beat Norase and Noah too. Anyway, by the time Sakihata Rimi left the container, the world around her had changed beyond recognition. A city of death. That was the most fitting description. Countless buildings littering her surroundings had collapsed, and those had avoided such a fate had deep cracks ripping through them.
サードメルト、これほどだなんて。
手遅れだったよ。野呂瀬源一は予定より早くノア2を本格的に稼働させた。
Following that voice, a boy on a wheelchair appeared before her. The old building was not wheelchair accessible, and yet despite the fact that it should have been impossible for someone in a wheelchair to ascend to the roof on their own, there he sat. But Rimi showed no signs of being surprised by his appearance.
元の君に戻ったみたいだね。
元の私なんていないよ。どっちかっていうと、タクが望んだ私に戻ったっていう感じ。タクがそう望んでくれたことはさ、すごく嬉しかったけどね。
彼はまた理想度なしで力を使った。もう少し追い込めば覚醒できる。
タクのことはそっとしておいてあげて。
Cutting his words short, Rimi spoke with an intense conviction.
ノア2は私が何とかする。
This is just a repeat of what she did, man. But she has a stronger conviction this time. But that doesn't change the fact she won't. She doesn't have she doesn't have the same bullshit abilities as Takumi. So she really is gonna lose against Norase, man.
ナナちゃんも私が助ける。
We heard this conversation before, man.
あなたも死なせないよ。
君一人じゃ野呂瀬に対抗はできない。それに前から言っているけど、君は普通に生きるべきなんだ。
タクとね、約束したんだ。
Looking up at the overcast clouds, Rumi gave a fleeting smile.
私がタクのこと守るって。だから行くね。ビシッ。
リミ。
Walking past the boy in the wheelchair, Rimi proceeded down the stairs, and the boy decided not to follow her. Rather, being unable to, sank deeply into his wheelchair and let out a great sigh.
自分を犠牲にするつもりなの、リミ。
Takumi, this is now a good time to mindfuck Taku to get his disorder, man. Noah 2, the bringer of calamity, or perhaps the creator of utopia for humanity. Whichever it was, it meant nothing to Rimi. Whatever it was something Rimi had to destroy. Noah 2's location was already a known fact to her, and mutual recognition silently yet tactfully planted into the people's consciousness. Despite it being right in front of Shibuya Station, despite the building had been demolished years ago, it was there, with none suspecting a thing. No one even tried to go inside. Rimi opened the door toward the former planetarium, with no signs of human presence could be found, and stepped inside. Rimi's eyes went wide at the scene she saw before her. There stood a device that was beyond enormous. Enshrined in the center of the dome-shaped room, it can be described only as a monster. and an ominous sound rang faintly throughout the spacious room. It was a low-pitched noise akin to the growl of a beast, a sound that signified the device's operation. Yeah, this is kind of a repeat of what we saw when she attempted to face Narse alone. But let's see what's different here this time around. Noah 2. Nishijo Nanami was being held captive right next to the device. Her uniform was torn, and bandage soaked with blood was wrapped around her right wrist. Her head hung toward the floor, and she looked terribly, terribly pale. Faced with such a pitiful sight, Rimi was at a loss for words. Oh man. Oh yeah, when she did this was before the third melt. So this is later in she arrived at the scene much later. Anyway, crucified in the Jesus of Nazareth's likeness. No. What held her now could not be called a cross. It was something far different, for it took the shape of pure, unadulterated malice. The entirety of this world's evil, the entirety of this world's disorder, the entirety of this world's immorality. It would be no exaggeration to refer it as a symbol sculpted to those very attributes. Keeping her guard up, Rimi swiftly checked her surroundings. There was no one else besides Nanami. She found no traces of the man who had prompted the development of Noah 2, the man who had performed ruthless, torturous experiments on her, Norase Geichi. Although surprised by that fact, Rimi prioritized Nanami's rescue and ran toward the tableau, crucifying her.
Nana-chan, shikkari!
Lowering Nanami from the tableau, Rimi sighed in relief after confirming she was still breathing. First and foremost, she had to get Nanami somewhere safe. To achieve this, Rimi went to pick her up. However, I cannot believe she jobs here. She just got there and she already jobbed. An intense pain surged in her back, as if something was gouging out her very flesh. Rimi vomited blood, the blood that stained Nanami's uniform.
久々の再会だというのに、私には挨拶もなしですか?
Enduring the pain, Rimi turned her head. Jesus Christ, Rimi! You jobbed even before knowing Norsa was there, man. Norase Genichi was standing right behind her, and in his hand was the tableau that had been clasping Nanami only a moment ago. However, it was not a tableau but a sword, Norase Genichi's Disordo. That very sword was now piercing through her body. Norase slowly drew his hand back. The sharp blade of his Disordo bore into her body, slit through flesh, and scraped against the surface of her bones. Her body arched in involuntary spasms, spurred on by a sharp, agonizing pain as her body was slowly being sliced apart. Rimi jobbed so fast. I cannot believe it. At last, Norris's sword released her. A torrent of blood came crushing free. Every nerve in her body was screaming in agony. Even now, she felt as if she was about to pass out from the sheer pain.
その娘は西条匠をおびき寄せる貴重な餌なのです。勝手に連れて行かれては困りますね。
Ring was well aware of the magnitude of Norris's power as a gigalomaniac suit. She had been imprisoned by the man for over 3 years, after all. In a fair fight, she could not stand a chance. In this situation, he would never let her go. The mere idea of doing so had been unfathomable to him. At the very least, I had to make sure Nana-chan escapes. The taste of blood spread through her mouth, and she was continually assailed by the first urge to vomit. The open wound in her back was hot, as if seared by a flame. The sheer pain coursing through her left her unable to move. Blood was still rushing out without pause. It felt as if her consciousness was about to be severed. It was so terribly cold. Her eyes grew hazy. In the midst of her fading vision, she saw what resembled a scornful smile forming on Norris's face. This might be it for me. Remy couldn't envision the delusion in which she managed to escape from this man's clutches. Only despair governed her heart.
僕の力をあげるよ。
It was a voice Remy knew very well. Nishijo Takumi, or the boy presenting himself as Shogun. The voice came from a distant place. It defined it was it's a manner akin to thought transference. In other words, telepathy, a feat made only possible by gigalomaniacs.
僕の最後の妄想を君に。
He will grant his final cope. His final cope.
君にこんな辛い役目を任せてしまってごめん。もう余計なことは言わない。君の意志を曲げることは無理だって分かったから。死ぬつもりなんだね。
If there was a way to fix things without dying, I would have done it.
彼が目覚めなかった以上僕にはどうすることもできない。だからせめて僕の最後の妄想を君に。
何言ってるの？あなたはそんなことしなくても。
Even though he had no presence in this place, Rumi shouted at the person she was speaking to.
君だけを死なせるわけにはいかないの。すべての元凶は僕のだから。だってもういいんだ。リミ、ノロセを殺してほしい。ノア2を破壊してほしい。僕がサポートするから。
Rumi's teeth sank into her lip, and she wiped away her tears. Despite it growing more and more distant with every passing second, she did everything in her power to hold on to her consciousness. She rebooted her disordo. Countless fluttering feathers came falling down. Cradling Nanami in one hand, she held her sword in the other. The dripping sound landed at her feet conveyed the terrible amount of blood she had lost. The bleeding had yet to stop, for her wound was the one that would never allow it to. A single slash of Noros's disordo, one capable of bringing down all that stood against it. Rimi took the blow with her sword as she converted for Nanami, but their difference in weight proved fatal. Rimi could not take one of Norris's blow head on with her small build. She was blown backward, and she slammed into the wall behind her. A crack toward the wall, through the wall of the planetarium's dome.
わざわざ生かしておいてやったというのに恩をあだで返すとまたいたぶられたいのですか
Norse slowly walked toward Rimi. Her face was of pure, unending confidence. Every facet of his being stood high above, looking down on her with great derision.
変態だよね。
Rimi grinned, but her smile was a strained one. And then, for some reason, only she could have known, she swung her sword toward the cracked wall behind her. The wall collapsed, exposing the scenery of the outside world. It was raining. Dense rain clouds coated the sky.
逃げようと
逃げないよ。でも
Rimi sat Nanami down on the ground, releasing her from her hold. Still holding her sword tight, she wrapped her arms around Nanami from behind.
タナちゃんだ。関係ないでしょ。
Rimi crafted the delusion, a single dazzling ray of light. By the time the light had subsided, the wing-shaped disordo Rimi held was no longer there. In their place, snow white feathers had grown from Nanami's back. Pure, untainted wings enveloped the bloodstained girl. It was gruesome yet unendingly beautiful sight. Her form was like that of an angel. Nanami was unconscious, yet as if they had a will of their own, the wings that adorned her began to flap. Rimi parted from Nanami. Deeply bemused, Norisa watched as Nanami flew up through the giant hole that had opened in the planetarium. Slowly and steadily, she glided through Shibuya as the rain incessantly poured. Now, unarmed, Rimi watched as she flew.
ナナちゃん無事でいて。
理想像を妄想によって翼としたのですか。それで君は逃げないのですか。
Norisa already had Rimi within the range of his own Disordo. He could send her head flying with a single swing. Nevertheless, Rimi stared right back at him, bereft of all fear.
まだ逃げられない。あなたを殺さなきゃいけないから。
From her pocket, Rimi retrieved a cross with dark sheen. To be precise, it was not a cross, but rather a stake, the same as those that had been used in the crucifixion case. In that very moment, Rimi had just rebooted one. Upon witnessing this display, Norisa could not help but raise a scornful laughter.
私を殺すそのようなおもちゃでですか。随分と舐められたものですね。
Blow was far too fast. Yeah, I knew what she's gonna lose, man. There's no way she's winning against this fight, especially she just lost her Disordo. Norisa's Disordo, far longer than he was tall, and at a speed thought unthinkable, with mortal constraints, tore through Rimi's flank. Only when her body had already begun to stagger from a slash did she realize she had been cut. Rimi collapsed, screaming at the top of her lungs from the sheer pain. Norisa's attack was not meant to kill. She could have killed her whenever he wished at that point, but he intentionally refrained from doing so. Approaching the writhing girl, he trampled down on her arm. Repeatedly alternating between pain breaths and gritting her teeth, Rimi eventually stopped moving, for she had no other choice. The tip of Norisa's enormous sword was right up against her blood-drenched back, but he had yet to pierce her with it.
もう一度聞かせてもらっていいでしょうか。やめませんよ。
In light of her request, Norisa pushed her sword forward with great strength. The tip of his sword further gouged the flesh of her blood-stained body, clawing even deeper into her. It was as if she was pinning an insect for him to display.
それで私を殺すと言いましたか。それとも私の聞き間違いでしょうか。
And yet Rimi, still lying prone on the ground, reached for Norisa's leg with one hand and grabbed onto it. She clung to him tightly as she could. The depths of her teary eyes labored resolute flames of determination. They glared at the scornful man from below.
殺してあげる。私があなたを。
Pulling his sword out from her, Norisa kicked Rimi in the jaw with all of his strength. Her body tumbled across the floor like a rag doll.
しばらく会わないうちに実に不愉快な人間になったようですね。すでに君は用済みです。利用価値があるかと思い生かしておきましたが、もういりません。
Rimi was on the verge of death. She tried pushing her body up from the floor and clawing toward Norisa, but without her disorder and being unable to walk, she might as well have been already dead.
私に生意気な口を叩いたことを後悔しながら死んでいってください。例えばそうですね。これから30年ほど私が君に毎日拷問を施してあげましょうか。妄想の中でね。
あ
Man, she is really gonna die, man. She's really dying in this fight. Notice his lips twisted, keeping the collapsed girl surrounded by the fluttering feathers within his sight. He formed a delusion. He strengthened his grasp on his disordo and opened his channel into the direct sea. The particles and antiparticles needed to materialize his delusion had now been created. And from those two collections, only the particles, through the signals of light that were established as sight, was sent into Sakihata Rimi's dead spot.
それを待ってた。
Oh no, 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 no! In an instant, the fluttering feathers transformed into eyes. Until this very moment, the only eyes watching him had been Rimi's, but now he was surrounded by an innumerable number of floating eyes.
その目。誰の目？
Holy shit! What is she planning to do, bro? It was the last illusion Takumi had bestowed upon her. The particles Norris had sent were impeded by countless eyes, rendering unable to reach Rimi's dead spots. And those eyes connected to the directly discharged many antiparticles, in an indomitable defense which cancelled out the power of a gigalomaniac. Only because he was Nishijo Takumi. Only because he was a gigalomaniac powerful enough to create a human. Only because he had exhausted the final embers of his own life. Could such a monstrous delusion have been real booted? Astonished by this surrounding him, Notice a gulp. Holy shit! If there's, I know Derby is in a fighting game. This felt like a super move, man. No matter where he looked, there was only eyes watching him. Not only did their numbers refuse to dwindle, but they grew with no end. They buried Norris's entire field of vision, and then they moved in toward him. Norris was instantly overwhelmed by intense fear. Gritting his teeth, he swung his disordo. They cut eyes, crushed blood, closed their eyelids, and vanished. But behind every eye, there was another. No matter how many he cut down, their numbers remained the same.
私を見るな。
それならもう一緒。目を開けなければいい。
Norris suddenly felt a great pressure on his chest, and at the very moment, the signals of pain resounded in his brain. As if they were a cloud that mist clearing away, the eyes that surrounded him all vanished without a trace. Before Norris's eyes stood Rimi, and in her hand was a cross-shaped stake, lodged deep in Norris's chest. And thus, that was his end. After confirming Norris's death, Rimi fell to her knees, debilitated. She was bleeding terribly, her face pale as porcelain. She was barely even conscious now. Pain, irregular breaths seeped from her mouth. Her eyes no longer saw anything. She could still faintly hear the ominous sounds of Nuwatsu, designating its status as fully operational. I guess I got no choice but to entrust someone else with destroying it.
ごめんね。タク。
In a faint, almost inaudible voice, Rimi whispered into the air.
約束。守れそうにないみたい。
Oh man. I knew she was still gonna. I mean, she did win against Norisa, but she didn't complete her mission of defeating Noah too.
ナナちゃん。助けたから。
Even that included like Takumi's bullshit powers. Final cope.
ならないけど。助け けたから。
Remy sluggishly raised her face. There should have been a section of the planetarium's wall that had collapsed, a section through which the sky should have been peeking. But a few moments ago, it had been veiled completely by a collection of rain clouds, and because of that, she could only wonder. Her eyes no longer allowed her to confirm its color, but Sakihata Rimi showed a faint smile as she looked up to the sky.
あの空をあなたともう一度見たかったな。タク、ありがとう。
When I opened the door to my base and stepped out, a clear blue sky jumped into the view. I had the feeling it had been raining, but it must have cleared up pretty fast. I hadn't been able to find Remy anywhere. She had vanished without a single word to me. Once again, she had disappeared on me. I'd been waiting and waiting for hours on end, but she never came back. Instead, waiting outside my base was...
Shogun!
Moving very slowly, the wrinkled boy in the wheelchair looked directly at me. Terrified, my legs gave out on me and I fell to the ground.
君はこれから自由だよ。え？僕はあと1時間もしないうちに生き絶えるだろう。君に脅威を与える存在はリミが殺してくれた。
Hearing her name sent a wave of relief through me. Remy had tried her hardest to protect me.
青井瀬名と折原梢の死体は僕が隠しておいた。七海は病院に収容された。だから君はもう自由だ。
自由だ! Eren! 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 I didn't understand. Wasn't he my enemy?
リミはどこへ？リミはもう戻ってこないよ。え？それじゃあ。
Shogun, skillfully maneuvering his wheelchair, turned his back to me. I blinked once, and within that time frame, one that hadn't even spanned a single second, Shogun had vanished without a trace. What the hell? What had just happened? Only a couple moments after that, I heard a low-pitched, quaking noise in the distance. Looking over toward the center of Shibuya, I saw something, as if there had been a giant explosion. A single cloud of dense black smoke was making its way up into the sky. Something had happened. No, something was happening. An uprising? Something paranormal? Or maybe even a battle against gigalomaniac. Whatever it was, it scared the hell out of me. The mysterious appearance of Shogun also scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to go anywhere near what was happening out there.
リミはもう戻ってこないよ。
But Remy could have been over there. She had disappeared once again, and yet I was surprisingly calm. It was strange. For some reason, I didn't feel like I'd been betrayed this time. This time, I had a strong belief that Remy was somewhere out there, struggling all alone, trying her absolute hardest for my sake. But Remy, haven't you done enough? Haven't you faced enough hardships as it is? You shouldn't have to suffer any longer. There's no reason to. It's not right. I remember the soft sensation of her lips. I was going to look for her. I had enough of not doing anything, of staying in my room all day like a coward. Our future, for both Remy and I, and the lives that we shared, there were so many incredible, amazing things waiting for us in the future. I chose to believe that, and I knew in my heart that it was right to do so.
朝一緒に学校行って学校では休み時間にどうでもいいこと話して 昼休みは一緒にご飯食べて、夕方一緒に帰るついでにたまにどこかのお店に寄ったりして、タクの部屋でちょっとだけおしゃべりして、それでまた明日ねって手を振って別れて、そんなのでいいなら私いくらでもしてあげるよ。そういうの結構憧れなんだ。
Now I understood. I understood what she meant by those words. How much she wished for such a simple life. When I thought back on everything, I realized that this time I spent with her had only been a few hours in total. But I had loved every last second of it. I was always happy when I was with her. To me, who had gone through every day all alone as a shut in, living as though I was dead, Rimi's smile had been my sole source of hope. It told me that a bright future existed ahead of me. Rimi had smiled for my sake. So now, she should smile for her own sake. I believed she would come back. But this wasn't my usual escapism, hoping to avoid reality. No, this was my resolve. I would believe only in her, for she had promised me she would be with me forever. So get moving. Move your ash, Nishijo Takumi. And so, in order to see her again, I headed toward the destroyed Shibuya. Wait for me, Rimi. I'll find you. I know I will. And this time, I'll stay by your side. And that is Rimi's route. I don't know. I don't think she did. I don't think she made it, man. I don't think she made it. I don't think she made it, man. There was no way. Or she could be like personality dead again. But I don't know, man. But this is like I mean, I think at the end of this route anyway, Takumi got his resolve, and that would have also helped him get his Disordo on his own. But at the same time, he got that resolve that he needed way, way, way too late. Now here's the question, because I don't know how the true ending will actually go. I don't know if how the anime went was actually how the true ending went. Maybe it did, but I wonder if just like the what do you call this? Just like when he was in Shibuya Scramble and he had like suddenly got the memories and experiences of all of everything that Shogun saw or the stuff that he unconsciously seen. I wonder if the true ending will be like the same, but except he sees all routes. That would be cool, but I don't know, man. I mean, the true ending was already written. I heard the true ending was only based on I mean, the true ending in Noah is based on the original with additional scenes. So I'm guessing, I'm wondering if the additional scenes were coming from the fact that you have the additional routes now, and he saw the additional routes as well. But I could be coping hard, I could be deluding myself right now. Anyway, we will go through the true ending in, I don't know, give me like a 10-minute break. 10-minute break, and we will start the true ending. Let me confirm first. So there it is, blue sky. All right, so I'll end stream right now. I'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll start with the true ending. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy watching, and I'll see you guys on the true ending stream in 10 minutes ish.